What a disaster. There's just no other way to describe it. The Super Bowl, unmitigated disaster. But when you think about it, it really was a fitting end to the 2024 NFL season. One of the most boring NFL seasons of my lifetime ended with the most boring Super Bowl in recent memory. No wonder there was no anticipation. No wonder there was no excitement. Going into the game last night, my wife was kind of upset with me because I could not have cared less about watching the Super Bowl. Of course, she didn't really care about the actual game. Even though she loves the NBA, my wife, she couldn't care less about the NFL. But she was excited about the commercials. She was excited about the outfits. Ooh, I can't wait to see what people are wearing. I bet Melania Trump will look fantastic. Yeah, Melania and the Trumper, they looked great last night. But unfortunately, they got photobombed by the dancing queen, Jackie Mahomes, and his tutu. Hey, Donnie, it's me, Jackie. Want me to do my mango dance? Ooga, ooga. I've been warning you. I've been telling you guys that the dancing queen has seductive powers that can mesmerize lonely men. But I could have never predicted that those powers would work on the Trumper. The NFL claimed that the Super Bowl would bring 150,000 people to New Orleans with an economic impact of about $500 million. Now, in all fairness to Uncle Roger, maybe it did, but local businesses outside of the French Quarter downtown, they did not see a dime. Hell, they didn't even see a peso. Throughout the week, business owners on Magazine Street in Uptown, they were complaining about the lack of business. Even corporate events for the Super Bowl, most of which were held downtown, even those events were sparsely attended. Throughout the day yesterday, I kept seeing reports about the lack of crowds in Champion Square outside of the Superdome. I've been to a lot of Saints games in my lifetime. I don't care if it's the NFC Championship or Week 8 of the regular season. Champion Square is packed. You'll see people for miles down Poydras Street hanging out or walking towards the Superdome. But yesterday, it was a ghost town. You don't have to take my word for it. Uncle KC always comes with the proof. Now, I don't know who this lovely lady is in this video I'm about to show you, but she claims that she has been to 4 Super Bowls. Unlike Sarah Spain, who auctioned herself for pesos to attend the Super Bowl, I can tell you with confidence that this lovely lady, she didn't have to do that. She didn't have to raise money on Lonely Mans while spending a week in New Orleans with Oscar Obese just to score tickets to a game that no one wanted to see. Hours before the game, she was inside, I think it was the NFL store. Normally, there would be so many people waiting to get inside, the line would be outside of the building. But yesterday, it was so quiet, you could hear a mice queef in the gender-neutral section. Watch for yourself.
This is the most dead I've ever seen a Super Bowl in the history of Super Bowls. We're walking around the activation space, there's like 200 people. Last year, the year before that, there used to be lines of thousands of people. We're at the NFL store right now, and nobody's here.
The corporate events and stores, that's not the only places that were empty. Apparently, there were empty seats throughout the Superdome. Hours before the game started, tickets were going for less than $2,000. It was the cheapest tickets for the Super Bowl, I believe, in the last 15 years. At one point in the first quarter, for a very, very brief second, Fox showed a panoramic view inside of the Superdome. People started talking on social media how it looked like the Superdome was empty. For the rest of the broadcast, Fox never showed that view again. From the Genesis to the Exodus, it was an absolute disaster for the NFL. I'll give you a brief recap of everything that happened last night, but first, make sure to like and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter at KC_BTL84. Link to the second channel is in the description below. This morning on the second channel, I buried Donnie Carr for his very noticeable absence this past week in New Orleans. Well, KC, don't you mean Derek Carr? No, I mean Donnie, asshole. I thought current and former players with the Saints, I thought they represented the city well. Everyone seemed to be there. Everyone seemed to be having a good time, except Donnie Carr. Now, I have been told that Derek Carr might have been missing because his wife was having a baby. I did not see that mentioned throughout the local media coverage in New Orleans or USA Today. They were crucifying him for missing the week, but if that's the case, obviously, Derek Carr should have stayed home with his wife. Either way, though, I explain why there is no coming back from this and why the Saints need to cut Derek Carr this offseason. So if you haven't already, head over to the second channel and subscribe. I only caught the last half hour or so of the pregame show yesterday. From what I've been told, Fox did an excellent job with the pregame show, which is something that is never said about the worldwide leader in woke, ESPN. One of the only things I remember about the pregame show was the performance by Lady Gaga. I won't even call her Lady Blah Blah today because her performance was excellent last night. They opened with a monologue from Michael Strahan and Tom Brady, which, by the way, I thought Tom Brady really showed his lack of experience last night. He kept referring to players by their first name during the game. Patrick is sacked again. Ooh, excellent play by Jalen. AJ made a great catch. I don't know, it just sounded weird, but I thought the pregame monologue between Michael Strahan and Tom Brady was phenomenal. They were talking about American resilience. They were talking about patriotism, which seemed to be a common theme throughout the Super Bowl. I was pleasantly surprised by that. Tom Brady and Michael Strahan, they made their way down Bourbon Street, and they're joined by Sean Payton. They're joined by Roger Goodell, Gail Benson, Mickey Loomis. They are joined by police officers in New Orleans, fighter fighters, EMTs. Then Lady Gaga puts on one hell of a performance. It was the perfect way to start the Super Bowl. But unfortunately for the NFL, the group made a wrong turn as they came off Bourbon Street. Instead of turning on Canal, they boarded the Bruce Caboose. The rest of the night was disastrous, and it started early in the first quarter. It didn't take very long for the NFL to exploit the presence of the boss Swiffer, and the crowd in the Superdome met expectations when they greeted Tay-Tay. Watch for yourself. Now, you might be wondering who that was sitting next to the Swiffer. Some people thought that she was there for diversity reasons, but my inside sources, they are telling me that was the founder of the Swiffer fan club, Ice Spice. Casey, what in the hell is spiced ice? Apparently, she is a semi-famous rapper. Last year, she collaborated with the whoopee cushion from The View, and she released a song called Think You the Shit, Fart. Think you the shit, you not even the fart. I'm not making this up. I wish I was, but I am not making that up. The whoopee cushion makes a cameo in the video where she is seen cranking her leg before releasing her powerful boodle breeze, or as Spiced Ice calls it, fart. Speaking of rappers, the NFL was hoping that Kendrick Lamar could save the Super Bowl during halftime. By the time we got to halftime, the game itself was already over. It was abundantly clear that the Chiefs' offensive line, they could not hold up. Mahomes is the best quarterback in the league, or as Tom Brady kept calling him, Patrick. But I don't care how great you are. I don't care if it's prime Tom Brady on the field. If your quarterback doesn't have time, if your quarterback is under constant pressure, especially if the pressure is coming from your front four and you're not having to blitz, there is no way you're going to win the game. The end result is exactly what we saw last night. Now, Roger Goodell. Hey, it's me, Roger G. Uncle Roger was hoping that Kendrick Lamar would save the Super Bowl. Problem was, Kendrick Lamar isn't capable of doing that, at least on that platform. And look, That is no disrespect to Kendrick Lamar. He was put in an unwinnable situation. For starters, oftentimes rap music, it just doesn't translate well live. T.I. is one of my favorite rappers, but I would never pay to see T.I. perform. Why? Because the vast majority of his songs, they don't translate well when performed live. The number one complaint with Kendrick Lamar last night, people had no idea what the hell he was saying, which is exactly my point. But KC, Dr. Dre, and Eminem were amazing when they performed at the Super Bowl. So were 50 Cent and Snoop Puppy. Yeah, I mean, that is true. But there's a huge difference between those artists and Kendrick Lamar. Kendrick Lamar's a mainstream artist, but he doesn't have a lot of crossover hits. He doesn't have songs that your mother knows the lyrics to. Outside of Not Like Us, most people have never heard a single from Kendrick Lamar. He doesn't have songs that everyone knows. For example, if you heard, "Is this the real life or is this just fantasy?" Everyone in the building knows that's Bohemian Rhapsody. It's the same thing with 1, 2, 3, and to the 4. Everyone in America knows what comes next. Snoop Doggy Dogg and Dr. Dre is at the door. That's what I'm talking about. That's what Kendrick Lamar does not have. He doesn't have timeless classics that have crossover appeal. Again, nothing against Kendrick Lamar, but he should not have been performing last night. With the Super Bowl in New Orleans, Cash Money or No Limit, they should have been given that performance. Put on the Manny Fresh beats and the Super Bowl would have been saved. Instead, they decided to go with the hot rapper. They decided to go with Kendrick Lamar because he had one major hit last year. But you can't rely on one popular song to carry a 15-minute set on the biggest mainstream platform in the world. Kendrick Lamar doesn't have enough of those crossover hits in his catalog. And the lady that he brought on stage to perform with him, SGA, SZA, PSA, who cares? It doesn't matter what her name is. And what's with all these celebrities selecting random letters from the iChart and making that their stage name? Whoever she was, she doesn't have the crossover hits either. After the disastrous halftime performance, things went from bad to worse for the NFL. Now, to their credit, I thought there were some great commercials last night. There were even some religious commercials, and believe it or not, they actually mentioned Jesus. But there was one commercial where the NFL was advocating for women's flag football, which is great. My stepdaughter plays flag football. It's fun to watch. Problem was the way the NFL tried to present it. They had a girl on the field, and she is surrounded by giants. They set up a drill where she's going one-on-one with some doofus named Brad. I swear you can't make this shit up. The NFL is featuring Brad Thundercock in a commercial about toxic masculinity. Long story short, the girl accomplishes the impossible and she beats Brad in a scrimmage. No one believed it, no one bit into the shit sandwich, and the commercial did absolutely nothing to advance flag football for women. I know there were a lot of negatives, but there were some positives coming out of the Super Bowl. Number one, NFL players and coaches, they are no longer afraid to show their faith. Patrick Mahomes, Nick Sirianni, Jalen Hurts. This is a promising trend right now throughout all sports. Athletes are no longer afraid to show their faith in God. And number two, Jalen Hurts proved me and a lot of other people wrong. I'll admit it. I have no problem admitting when I'm wrong. I was wrong about Jalen Hurts. This dude is a winner. He was excellent last night. Hell, he was great throughout the playoffs. Now, the Eagles were loaded. I still don't know if Jalen Hurts can elevate lesser talent around him, but credit where credit is due. Jalen Hurts proved me and a lot of other people wrong last night. Good for him. Now, ratings have yet to be released, but I am expecting low numbers for the NFL. They're going to blame the blowout, but ratings, would have been low regardless. There just seems to be declining interest in this league. Do you agree? Is interest declining in the NFL? Also, give me your thoughts on the Super Bowl. What did you think of Kendrick Lamar? Let me know. Sound off in the comments below. I'll see you guys later.